So Nancy Pelosi just absolutely flexed on China. Why'd she go there? Why was everybody freaking out about it? Well, guys, let's talk about it. Of course, my name is Forrest. I invest in stuff, and you should too. Pelosi was going to Taiwan all on her own. The Secretary of Defense has no idea why. It doesn't really add up. So let's take a seat and get into it. If you're new here, of course, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Share this video with 2 of your friends. It is my goal to help people reach financial freedom and really do all the things that they want to do in life, regardless of what is happening in this crazy system, this crazy world that we live in, where the Speaker of the House, for some reason, starts international incidents with the world's biggest supplier, that is China. So there's really 2 big things that I want to hint on in this video. And the first one is the theater of it all, right, as it relates to the market. So I'm a trader. My biggest thing is trading. And so a lot of the things when I talk about politics isn't really me trying to necessarily be political, though I'm a pretty political guy, I'll be honest. But more so it's, okay, what's the point of this? What is up, or what is the reason why our government would convey all this information publicly? What's the reason why so much of the administration would act like they don't know why she's going? Why aren't we having a conversation with China, right? You really have to think about how these news events move the markets and what it can mean in the current political landscape, right? So from a market perspective, if China had fired on her aircrafts, right, we would have seen that immediately in the markets. There would have been a huge and immediate crash in the SPX, S&P 500. Every big ETF that is a bucket of the large companies would have immediately tanked because China makes all of our stuff. There isn't a thing or an industry that you can really operate in that doesn't have ties to China in one way, guys. And this would be a really, really bad incident for the markets. It's not something to think lightly of. Obviously, war is bad in general, but unlike an altercation with many other countries, actually having an altercation with China would absolutely tank the markets. And so I basically had my eye on the clock, had my eye on the Twitter feed, had my eye on the markets, basically making sure that if there was a big move, I would be able to catch it. We have to trade what's happening, regardless of whether it's war, famine, aliens visit us from space. We want to be ready to make the proper investment, because at the end of the day, we need money in whatever environment we're in. Hopefully the world isn't ending in that environment, but hey, if the world is ending too, then you can use it to buy food and bullets. So the first one is the political landscape. And the reason why I think this is happening, and I really think this is probably the most important part of this video, guys, is it doesn't make sense for the left hand to say, I don't know what the right hand is doing, and then for the brain to go, well, I've got no part in either one of them. It doesn't make sense, right? Nancy Pelosi is part of the government. You've got the Secretary of Defense who's saying, I have no idea why she's going. The Biden administration, and the military are coordinating basically to put all of this military posturing nearby to make sure that she's safe. We would not invest this much effort into making sure she's safe for an unsanctioned visit to a country like Taiwan that we know is going to stir up this whole big incident, right? It just really doesn't make sense. It's obviously coordinated, and in my mind, I think it was a setup to basically create a situation that Biden can work his way out of, right? And maybe it's possible that, the Biden administration and China already had a conversation and said, hey, we're going to do this whole theater together. You guys are going to say this, we're going to say this here and there, and we're going to use it to manufacture a situation because there's something that might be going on in the background. I'm not saying that that is the case, but you have to understand, guys, if you've ever worked at a company with people and there's internal politics, like these things happen every single day. It's so real. It's so real on a level that you cannot imagine. It is so real, guys, and it's really, really easy to do. All you have to do is say the right things on the news, stoke the right fear, and you'll get people to think a certain way, people will be so afraid and worried about the outcome that they won't actually take a second and think, how do we even get here? Like, why is this even happening? Why is she there in the first place? Yeah, so just keep that in mind when we're thinking about, ultimately, is it good or not that she went there? Should Taiwan be its own country or not? Those are all important questions, and those are all things that we should talk about, topics that we should discuss, but we need to actually think about why we got here, and especially as traders, what it means for us in the market. So that's the political nature of it in a nutshell. What is actually going to happen next going forward? So it is currently the weekend shooting this video. All of this first drama kind of just happened in this past week. I'm sure it's going to play out over the next few weeks. So there's a lot of time to figure this out. But let's change locations and talk about how I think this situation is going to continue to develop and how the markets will react to it. Let's go. So here's what I think we're going to see, guys. In the next few weeks, China is going to start taking economic action, because that's honestly the biggest flex that they have over us. It's not militarily, right? Obviously, a military conflict between us and China would be super duper bad. We might have the best military, but we don't have an invincible military. China has a really, really big, strong military. It would be a lose-lose situation, really, for everybody involved. Something China can get away with, though, and I'm sure their economy might take a hit as well, but they could sanction or basically make product more expensive for us, right? So think about all the little components, odds and ends, or even end products that we buy from China. They can jack up the prices of that by 5, 10, 20, 30, even 50%, right? They really can do this as much as they like. America, in response to that, there's a few things that we could do, right? So we could stop buying those products. The problem is that the alternative for us to buy these same components, products, widgets, end products, right, is just as expensive as the taxed version from China. America isn't in the business of manufacturing a lot of these things anymore, right? So we make high technology end products here in America still. So think of things like Tesla. Those cars are assembled here in America. A lot of that engineering happens here in America, but a lot of the small little components and widgets that go into a Tesla are not manufactured, designed, or made here, right? We buy the small little components, which allows us to have efficiency at scale when we're producing these high-end, high-tech products, right? So if that changed for us, if we had to go from, being a country that only focused on one aspect of the economy and having to manufacture all of these things, prices would skyrocket, guys, like way more. Imagine the MacBook Air that might be $1,100. Now it's $2,200. Everything that you buy skyrockets through the roof. It's a really bad situation overall, which again goes back to what I was thinking earlier. What is the point of this whole thing even happening? Why would Nancy Pelosi, in an administration that has a super low approval rating, manufacture a crisis? Now I'm going to say that she manufactured it, but her going over there was the genesis of it. I think it's an administration-wide thing, basically creating a small problem that they can blow up and make really big, and then solve, right? It'll give him a win. It'll allow the markets to cool off. Obviously, the Fed is aggressively increasing rates. Not to get too off topic, but there's a lot of things happening right now. So there's the war between Russia and Ukraine. We have interest rates, which are getting increased aggressively. Jay Powell just came out and said that, hey, the economy looks like it's doing fine. Jobs numbers just came out this week. Employment is great. Unemployment is super low. So we're going to keep increasing interest rates even higher. So Biden doesn't really have that many levers that he can pull to actually increase his approval rating. And this is a very simple thing that can distract from all of that. It can distract from, the quasi-recession that we're in, give him a situation that he could essentially fix. So we're going to see, and I think China is already, as of the filming this video, started sanctioning a few of our political officials, a few nobodies really. But we might actually see more economic sanctions, changes in tariffs. If you don't know what a tariff is an import tax, right? So that's the amount that we have to pay to import something. You've probably heard of the tariffs a lot in the last administration, and the price changes for that. All it means is that if we make it more expensive to bring things into the country, then people are more likely to buy them from somewhere else. The problem is that alternative answer, again, could just be as expensive. So it's not as simple as just going, hey, we're not going to buy things from China anymore. We use them for a reason. We use them because they're really, really good at providing cheap labor, regardless of the ethics of that, and doing that at scale and exporting the output of that labor to the world. So the next few weeks, definitely coming into this next week, we're going to see, I think, some heavy news on Monday. I would not be surprised if that moves the market. The market every day has been gapping down more or less. It's pretty much a sure bet overnight if you bought puts, the market was going to gap down. I think we're going to see some strong news Monday and Tuesday that'll move the markets pretty heavily. It'll settle. I don't think anything really, really big is going to happen, and so those headlines will hit. We'll see a gap down, and then we'll slowly start to climb back up, just like we have been every day. It's been a steady climb in the last few weeks, back up. It's been basically an uptrend for the last few weeks. You saw my other video, I'll talk about this. If you haven't seen my other video, that's what's happening right now, right? So as traders, as investors, even if you're not day trading like me, if you're an investor and you're thinking about the markets and how these headlines will move the markets, move your retirement account, move your portfolio overall, just keep them in mind, right? Understand that all of this is a big game, right? Everybody's not necessarily on the same team, but it is a game, right? It is a game. People know what the other players' cards are. They know what the other players' chess pieces are, so they know what everybody's move are gonna be. So everybody's maneuvering around each other. That's how you have to think about it. So even if, again, they're not on the same team, it might be advantageous for me to move with this person until I don't have to, right? Until I make my own move with a different person until I don't have to, right? Think of politics, the economy, all of that as a multiplayer game, right? Where the outcome is to just get ahead. You're not necessarily a winner. The outcome is just to get ahead, to get more. And everybody's going to move and shake, understanding that there's all these different pieces and players at play. So ultimately, if I go back to the genesis of this video, or the question that this video is trying to answer, why did Nancy Pelosi go to Taiwan? Well, I think that Taiwan obviously has been a long-standing question of their independence. We haven't had a really, really strong stance on it as America for a while. So honestly, it was something that could happen at any time. Right, we could have decided to have a strong stance on Taiwan being an independent country. Really, at any point in time, obviously, China says that it is a part of China. That Taiwan does not exist. Right, it's just an extension of China, and they basically have just allowed them to exist in that state for a long time. Taiwan is really important for semiconductor production. If you think about what America is doing right now, where we just passed this act to produce more semiconductors in America, that's the reason why Nancy Pelosi is going to Taiwan, right? We had a supply shortage of semiconductors. We have an administration with really low approval rating. And so there's this game with multiple pieces, a lot of these problems that need to be solved. Timing is everything. So right now is a really good time for them to make this move right now. There was no other reason in my mind why they would do it now versus at some other point. That's it for this video though, guys. I appreciate you per usual. Go ahead, hit the sub button if you haven't yet. Hit the notification bell, and see you in the next one.